It's fucking hot.
Mm. Texas life is no joke, man.
Man, the weather's crazy.
And then, so like, let me ask you: do people like openly like carry firearms there, or
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
wow? So like on their hips, like but
Mhm.
like wow. So
Uh-huh.
it's like Israel, I guess, in that way, because that was like a big shock to me. Like when like there's so many people carrying guns. I was like, man, what the heck is this? It just seems so dangerous
Mm.
and so foreign to me at first. And then I realized that there's actually a lot of places around the United States that are pretty much like that. All right. So anyways, okay, so where are we at with this? Okay, so yeah, we're still in this like we're in this process of just focusing on leadership, and there's different seasons. There's different seasons throughout the year, and there's different things that you work on in those different seasons. So right now we're preparing for Pesach, and we're thinking big, you know, and we're just thinking, into the future. You know what I'm saying? We're just really thinking it out and saying like, who do I want to become throughout this process? Like the things that we're learning, like how much are they going to be internalized? Not so much for us, but like, other people, to really just think that out because like we actually can become those things. It's like every day there's a unique light that we connect to. Now, certain lights, Hashem says, if you don't recognize it, you could suffer. Whoa. So why people just be calling me? To me, the people who call you when you're giving a share, it tells what type of spirit they're on. You know what I mean? Anyways, so the point is just saying that, we are, I mean, at least text me, you know what I mean? Anyways, so the things like this. So, who are we becoming, where are we going? Right. And so that's the main thing, right? The main thing is like having that in mind because, like I was saying, like every single day there's a unique light, right? And we learn that through the 7 days of creation, right? And so each day there's a unique light, and we want to connect to that particular light. Now there's some particular lights that exist in certain coordinates in the universe that if we don't connect to, we could suffer. And those are what the Yom Tovim are. That's what Rosh Chodesh is. That's what Shabbat is. You know what I'm saying? Even to a degree, even certain fast days, right? Certain death anniversaries, all these types of things, right? So the point is just saying that the point is just saying that we just want to be on that process of connecting to all those lights throughout the day, right? And so the studying allows us to connect to that particular light of the day, and then if we direct that study, like say I'm focusing on leadership, or I'm focusing on midot, or I'm focusing on healing for full, whatever it is, that you could take that light and push it in a particular direction, right? And so for us, we have big leadership responsibilities coming up, like really big responsibilities, with our own personal families, but also our community, right? And more importantly, over ourselves, right? And so we're in this process with Chief Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs, and he's taking us through this process. Before we start, any ideas, OT, anything you want to share? Are you good? Where you
Uh, well, I'm good.
at? Okay. Well, I'm sure we're gonna have a lot to talk about once we get going. Hold on. Okay. So I want to do something a little bit different, a little bit in our study today, and I think it's something I just want to do in general going forward. That in these leadership processes, I want to stop at different parts and kind of like talk it out versus just like talking it out at the end. Is that better, you think?
Yeah, yeah, I like that because, I can make sure I keep mine very short so we don't get too long-winded. But yeah.
Yeah, but it just, and I think it's helped to read. really retain that information too. You know what I mean? Like in terms of okay. So anyway, we're in VaYetzeh. VaYetzeh. Okay, so all right, so this is the parsha after this is the parsha after Toldot, right? And Toldot was all about the idea of like communication, right? And how important communication is in leadership, right? And so this is briefly, just really quickly, just kind of like keep in mind we start with Bereshit, right? Because we have to train our minds and computerize our minds to have these things inside of our head. Like they're like files that we have in our head. So we can recall them and pull that information out wherever we want. So in order to do that, we have to go over, right? The Torah is made in sections that allows us to create these sections in our mind, right? So we can retain the information of the Torah and have it inside of our framework, right? And okay, so Bereshit was all about responsibility. And Rabbi Sachs starts that conversation in Bereshit talking about this idea of in order to understand the right way to do it, sometimes you have to go through the wrong way of doing it to get there, right? So by doing things the wrong way, you learn how to do things the right way. So he brings the example of Adam and his wife not taking accountability for eating the Eitz. He brings the story of Cain and Hevel, Cain not taking accountability for his brother. Noah, even though he was a righteous man and he walked with God, he still, per se, could have been more, engaged into the people. And so here comes Abraham. He comes in the scene, and he literally, in many ways, through his character and what he did, he corrected those generations, right? So like when Lot was in problems, he was ready to go and do help Lot, right? Which was the opposite of what Cain had for his brother. When he went out and he prayed for the people of Sodom, right? He prayed for the people of Sodom and he corrected the sin of he corrected the sin of Noah, right? Or or you could say character flaw per se. Not that there were sins. By Cain, it was a sin for sure, but I'm saying by over here it's more of a character flaw. He could have done more, but he was still a righteous man. So he corrected that level in human consciousness. Now those vibrations, and that's why when the Midrashim talk about, and I'll come back to your screen in a second, but that's the thing, when the Midrashim talk about, like say Sarah Menu, for example, right? This is a very important concept. The Midrashim talk about Sarah Menu getting pregnant and it being this huge miracle, and she's breastfeeding babies, and this is an elderly woman, right? And it was a huge miracle, and from there, like people heard about it. It was such a huge story that it literally traveled around the world, and women who were barren were able to get fertile just from the energy. So the sages understand that when an innovation comes into the world, right, it may be manifest through one particular person or a group of people. But that light of that innovation is accessible to everybody, right? Which is the reason why we should always be happy for people when they have success, right? Because that success or that miracle that we saw is reflective of a light that's available, right? Versus, oh, look at that person has something I don't. Anyways, so why is that important, right? Why is that? Why is that idea important? Because when we understand the process of the avos, especially in the frame of Abraham, there's many things that he did that no one else ever did in human history from a monotheistic framework or for a God, singular Hashem, one source, Hashem Echad, consciousness, right? No one else ever did that in human history, right? And so when we talk about these things, they're not just like random things. Like it wasn't in the consciousness of early man to say, hey, I'm going to go and defend somebody else. Right now, you got protests all over the world about issues that don't even that per se don't even have anything to do with the people themselves, right? It just on an emotional level, an ethic level, moral level, they feel that injustice is happening somewhere else, and so they protested from it over there, right? And they're able to even come to this consciousness that an injustice is one place is injustice everywhere, right? All these ideas that we hear. This is Avraham Avinu. This is what Avraham Avinu brought in the world. These human beings that you see walking on planet Earth, Abraham brought that light into the world that made it accessible in human consciousness to care about other people that have nothing to do with you. And that's why the Torah tells us about Sodom or Sodom. Sodom. That's what God tells us about. He singles out all the things that Abraham did and all the days that he lived in all of his life. Because think about it, we're hearing about instances with Abraham's life. We're hearing about instances with Yitzhak. So why does God choose these instances? You know what I mean? They lived 365 days too. You know what I mean? There's a lot of days, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of miracles experienced. Why does God bring these particular ones that tell us in the story? So in this frame, we're learning about this idea of Abraham. And so when Abraham goes, as the Midrashim tells us, Masechet Kedushin goes in further. I think we spoke about it yesterday. And it tells us about Abraham burying his wife. That was the correction of Adam with Chava. He took complete responsibility for the entire life of this woman by taking responsibility and burying her. So these ideas, these concepts, these models are the building block of this new idea that Abraham brought into the world, right? And then it goes further and it talks about this idea of the next generation of of the family being through Isaac and Rivka. And now, when you look at Rivka, I don't know, I don't want to get into the criticizing of the Avos. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I hear the concept, I hear what he said, and I'm not even disagreeing with it, but I'm just saying I don't want to expound on it too much because when I expound on what I see, when we're analyzing the situation, we're saying, well, why didn't Rivka, right? Why didn't Rivka just tell Isaac what she had this prophecy of? Why didn't he just tell her? And the bracha that he was going to give was the exact bracha that Yitzhak needed. He was going to give one for Esau for power and wealth, and he was going to give, he was going to give Yitzhak he was going to give Yaakov the one that he received from Abraham, which is family and the land. So he brings this idea. So why did this thing even happen? And then not only look at what happened out of it. The whole thing was a catastrophe from there. The whole thing. Jacob has to flee the house. Aesop's trying to kill his brother now. Now we're back in Cain and Hevel, right? Abraham corrected Cain and Hevel. Now we're back in Cain and Hevel, right? And so it creates this whole chain effect, right? And he attributes the problem of a lack of communication. And perhaps even insinuates to a degree that Rivka had a certain level of low self-esteem. Maybe she didn't believe in herself fully. He says when she saw Yitzhak, like it was like she covered herself, she was veiled. So anyway, so we go through this process with Abraham, and so that's where we're at right now, right? We're the week after what we just discussed, and hold on. Anything you want to add to that before we start?
No, it's interesting the rectification that, like, once you have Dom, the fall of Adam and Hava, and you see these similar situations arise, and it's like Avram Avinu corrected, certain things, or you see like Noach when he planted the vine. I read a commentary how he was really trying to correct the fall of Adam, but he wasn't able to do it. That's why he became drunk, and then you get to Avram Avinu, and he starts to rectify, Adam and then Yaakov and Yosef. Like all these are rectifications from the beginning, and it's something I'm kind of interested in to see, like where are we in our present time? Like
Mm.
what rectifications are we still, you know, trying to complete in a sense? It's like we're all one collective soul headed towards one, goal that Hakadosh Baruch Hu has created for us, and like nothing's going to stop it. We just, I wouldn't even say we delay the time. I guess we just extend the process. Well, I guess that is the land, but it's like it's still on track. Like we're in the year 5785, I believe. So it's like we don't have much time before we get into like we're in the messianic era now. I don't, not sure how many people, look into that, but like we're right, we're in it,
Yeah.
like we're right there. So you're seeing everything accelerate in a sense so quickly. That's why, I think about it like we're in such amazing times right now. Like it's happening right now. It might not be in a way that you could envision, but obviously you can't envision it. So it's like we're seeing it all unfold. It's very intriguing. Like I mean, obviously Hashem puts us, in the times that we're supposed to be in, but it's like what amazing souls we have to be here now. So
Mhm.
kind of think about that.
It's powerful. Powerful. So, VaYetzeh. So he says the light in dark times. Okay, so it's interesting. And also, when I read this title, it also made me reminded me of how important it is that when we're going through the different parshiot, something to have in the back of your mind is to think about what are the seasons that are going on during these times, right? And what time of the year these parshiot are usually read in, and what is the weather like? Are we in the spring? Are we in the winter? Is it a time of revealment, a time of concealment, and seeing if there's corresponding? Because around this time, this is like going into like Hanukkah time, right? VaYetzeh, Miketz, all these places, right? All right. So I'm not saying in that order, but I'm saying that this in terms of the concealment of the parshiot. Okay. So okay, he said, what is it that made Jacob, not Abraham, Isaac, or Moses, the true father of the Jewish people? All right. Here's the question. He says we are the congregation of Jacob, the children of Israel. Jacob, Israel, is the man whose name we bear. Yet Jacob did not begin the Jewish journey. Abraham did. Jacob faced no trial like that of Isaac at the binding, and he did not lead the people out of Egypt or bring them to Torah. He says, to be sure, all of the children stayed within the faith, unlike Abraham or Isaac. But that simply pushes the question back one level. Why did he succeed? Why did he succeed where Abraham and Isaac failed? So you hear the question. How do you hear the question?
Um, I mean, it's like he's like you have Yaakov Avinu and all 12 of his children, stayed on the path in a sense. You have Avraham Avinu, Yitzhak Avinu. Obviously, you have Yishmael, and you have Esav. So he's bringing out that just what is the like why did Yaakov like why is it Yaakov, instead of Abraham or Moshe or Yitzhak Avinu, like you're saying, why Yaakov when these other ones did these things?
Good, very nice. And like you said, he brought out different things, and he's trying to understand. Now, the way that he asked the question is a little suggestive, right? And he says, why does he insinuate because Jacob was chosen that the other ones failed? When do we even know that there was a competition for this? So that's a little bit of a weird question. But the point is saying we're allowed to critically analyze everything, right? So it says, it seems that the answer lies in the Peshat Vayetze, or yeah, Parshat Vayetze and Parshat Vaishlach. Yeah, he says Jacob was the man whose greatest visions came to him when he was alone at night, far from home, fleeting from one danger to the next. Ooh. He says in Parsha Vayetze, escaping from Aesop, he did not stop and rest for the whole night, with only stones to lie on, and he had a what is this epiphany? And epiphany. What is epiphany? He says, okay, this is the term of the dream. Okay, fine. So he says he had a dream in which he saw the stairway resting on earth and with its top reaching to the heavens, and the angels of God are ascending, were ascending and descending on it. He says when Jacob woke up from his when the angels woke up from his sleep, he thought, Surely the Lord is in his place, and I was not aware of it. He was afraid and said, how awesome is this place? This is none other than the house of God. This is a great. This is the great. This is the gate of heaven. Okay, so we'll keep going before we go into discussion because I think it's kind of like evident at the point. But I do want to just make one point of this. So it's a very interesting point he's bringing out, right? So we're trying to understand what is the relationship between Jacob and the Jewish people, right? That's really the essence. What is the relationship between Jacob and the Jewish people, and why not Abraham? Why not Yitzhak? Why not Moshe? Right? Why? What is it about Jacob that did this? And so he's bringing this idea of saying that how this guy Jacob had to function at a high level, dealing with a lot of darkness. Right? He's even known for the prayer during darkness, right? Which is a nighttime prayer. All right. Arvit, Marv, depending on where you hang out. Okay. So he says in the Parsha Vaishlach, feeding from Laban, and terrified at the prospect of meeting Asaph again, he wrestles alone at night with a unnamed stranger. And he says, and Jacob said, was was your name will no longer, he says, and then the man says, your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with the humans and have overcome. So that's a big point. That you struggled with God and you struggled with humans. And you won. He said, it is because I saw God's face to face and yet my life was spared. He says this. Okay, so go, we're going, we're flowing, we're flowing, we're flowing. Okay, so he says these are the decisive spiritual encounters of Jacob's life. Yet they happen in this is liminal space, the space between either the starting point nor at or the destination. So is that what saying in the middle? He says, at a time when Jacob is at risk in both directions, where he comes from and where he is going. Yet it is visible, yet it is at these points of maximum vulnerability that he encounters God and finds courage to continue despite all of the hazards of the journey. Otino, what do you think?
So on one end, I think it's interesting that he named that place, Peniel. You go into like the pineal gland, like the third eye. That's just interesting. I've never really kind of thought about that connection, what that could possibly mean. But the fact that Yaakov is molded, in the darkness, like the darkness is actually strengthening him, every single time, and I think that's interesting. Like our process of growth, darkness comes before light. So it's something that we have to really embrace in a sense and understand and have to dot to know that this is actually, pulling you towards, your ultimate goal. It's not an impediment whatsoever. It's not obstacle, it's opportunity. But only through the proper dot and the emunah, can you actually use these, as opportunity to grow.
So yeah, so very exactly, very very nice on this, very nice on that. So the thing is, a part to kind of bring out and talk about a little bit is this idea of saying like, okay, we were posed with this question at the beginning of this conversation with Chief Rabbi Sachs, right? Chief Rabbi Sachs, you better be with us right now. And so the thing is saying that when we're going down this path, we're just trying to understand what is the connection. Why was Jacob chosen? Right? Because Jacob has to embody something that totally connects the Jewish people, the Israelites together. Right? This is the idea, right? Is to say that this is the mechanism, right? To this is the mechanism to really, think about like how this life of this person is similar to Jews throughout history. Jews have been running for their life, running from here, running from there, Jews are religious, Jews aren't religious, Jews are Kabbalists, Jews are atheists. You know what I'm saying? Like you have all these dualities, right? And then and he says this idea. He says you saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared, right? And so it's that idea of understanding. Like no, it's you're looking at a blueprint. Jacob's life is a blueprint for all the Jews that come and all their challenges to come and everything that they do. And we look towards Jacob's life and see what he did and what he overcame and all the things. And we can look at our lives and be like, wait, look at Jacob. His brother was trying to kill him. His mom set him up. Mom may have given him bad information. We don't know. I'm not saying nothing negative. I'm not saying nothing negative, but I'm just saying some men have grown up and got bad information from women in their life. You know what I'm saying? That they grew up with, right? And maybe they lived a certain way. Like maybe a guy lived, as like in a single parent house. He didn't have a dad so much, and his mom used to like dress him up like a pretty boy, right? And he kind of grew up with that type of dynamic, that approach to life, and leading with his sexuality and his different type of thing. But this is just the way he was raised. He got bad information and it led him to this type of relationship and that type of relationship and this type of this. So, but if his dad was just there, he would have been balanced in a different way and had a completely different life. So I'm using that as just a basis to kind of like look at the dynamic of Yaakov and all the things that make up who Yaakov is, right? What the things he went through, what it was, what his upbringing was like, the information that he had. He just got sucked into it. His mom tells him to do so. He listens to her. And now from that point, his life goes on this whole spin, this whirlwind. He has a flee Lavan now. You know what I'm saying? The whole thing. He has a flee with his kids. This is what Jews have been dealing with throughout history. All right. So he says, that is the strength that Jacob bequeathed to the Jewish people. It is remarkable. Is not merely that this is one tiny people survived tragedy that would have spelled the end of any people, the destruction of two temples, the Babylon and the Roman conquest, the expulsions, the persecutions, the pogroms of the Middle Ages, the rise of anti Semitism in the 19th century Europe, and the Holocaust. He says, what is remarkable is that after every classicism, Judaism renews itself, scathing new heights of achievement. During the Babylonian exile, Jews deepened their engagement in the Torah study. That's the Talmud came out of that, right? He says after the Roman destruction of Jerusalem, it produced some of the great literary monumentum of the oral Torah, the Midrash, the Mishnah, and the Gemara. He says during the Middle Ages, it produced a masterpiece of law and Torah commentary of poetry and the philosophy and philosophy. And a mere 3 years after the Holocaust, it proclaimed the state of Israel. The Jewish people returned to history after after the dark night of exile. Okay, so some thoughts on that.
It's like in the highest places of vulnerability and at the highest place of stress is where, these blessings come in. Like this is where like Yaakov is forged. It's not in places of comfort whatsoever. Even Avraham Avinu, Yitzhak Avinu, if you look at the lives of those both, they're not quote unquote easy at all. Extremely difficult, situations that they go through, but they rise every single time to the top. So it's like Hashem is showing us in life, you have to, you want to throw a ball, your arm gotta go backwards. You want to jump, you gotta bend down. Like it's a process that you have to go through. And these, I even think about like with myself, like the fact that I'm here and I've mentioned this to you before, that I'm even here engaging in Torah. Like my ancestors had to be on something a whole different level that I
Mm.
can't even understand to even, think it out this way, that, they will pray that one of their descendants will always, come back to the Torah, no matter what's going on, no matter the age. And it's like that's a remarkable strength. And you kind of see that, through the lives of the vote, especially Yaakov Avinu. Like it's not easy. It's not no game. To go through these things, you have to have spiritual fortitude. You have to have like a spiritual, your spiritual eye has to be completely on Hakadosh Baruch Hu. And it's just like it's through these dark moments is where the greatest light comes out. And I guess that's why Rabbi Sachs named this, and what he named it because it makes perfect sense.
The thing is, it's like, you're making talking about yourself and life. The thing is, we have not critiqued Black history from the frame of people of holiness looking at our history. Because if you look at the different experiences that Black people, Black Americans have had in the United States, and you look at what the things we went to in our responses, the communities that were created, the economics, even though they talk about bombing in Gaza, they bomb Black people too in America. You know what I'm saying? They bomb communities. Black Wall Street. Tell me about it, right? So it's just saying that, like, when we need to have a completely new critique of seeing what we did, and we never even looked at our history in terms of beauty. We've only seen it in terms of struggle, strife, and tragedy. But like, we're looking at the Jewish history right now, right? Which I truly believe that us African Americans are a part of that. You know what I'm saying? And so, and we went through the same types of stuff in a microcosm in America over the course of, say 500 years now, whatever. And it's just like, look at where we're at. Look how we persevere. We shouldn't even be here. They tried to do every single thing, prison, this, drugs. Well, we didn't cut no deals with the Colombians. We didn't bring in drugs over the Mexican border. We weren't doing business with Colombians. We weren't lobbying in Congress to have weak border laws. We weren't paying off border patrol special agents. You know what I'm saying? We selling drugs in our community to our neighbor. To put some new rims on the car. You know what I'm saying? That's our engagement in the situation, or we're addict. So, and then you create the prison industrial complex. Then you take tax dollars out of communities so the schools don't have any money. And we're still here. We're still learning Torah. Some of us are even in Jerusalem, Israel, all over the world, finding out resources, communicating back, say, hey, this is what I learned. Right? So my point is just saying that we have to learn from the sages how to see all the inventions that we had. What happened on these inventions? What was going on? All these just random inventions Black people came up with. What was going on in the cosmos? Did he come up with this on Hanukkah? Did he come up with it on Rosh Hashanah? When? What was going on? What was his ancestors maybe connected to? So I'm saying we have to re-critique the whole thing, even our own families. Because if we can't look at Black history and see the beauty of it, and see the holiness of it, and see it as a microcosm of Jewish history, right? From all over the world, right now, everything, the righteous. Why are we protesting? Who taught us how to protest like this, bro? Why is that in our DNA to do that? Why were we doing peaceful protests? Tell that to the Palestinians, bro. I'm trying to understand it. You know what I'm saying? Why we have to create a nation of Islam? Why we got to create the AME church? Why we even got to create stuff like this? What's going on? So we got to learn from the sages how to see. How to see beauty in darkness, to see our lives in darkness, to see the holiness, the journeys that we've been on, and retell a story. Because the fact that people have been telling our story that have not worked on themselves. So they're going to tell our story from slavery and the woman this and the people getting beat and this and yes, and that's true. But what happened right after that pain? They can't tell that story. They can't say these people were freed and they did this in 3 years. They can't do that. I've never seen that movie. I've never seen that movie. So this is what we need. This is the cleansing of the mind. Okay, very nice. It's the parsha. Very nice leadership. Very nice critique. Amazing. I never looked at it that way. But the final level of learning is being able to connect to the essence, which is what he's showing us is a reevaluation. You could look at Jacob and be like, man, that fool had a messed up life. You could be like, man, God forbid, Hawks for Shalom, the little, little Lena, the whole thing. I'm saying someone could look at Jacob's life and say something like you could say he was cursed. If you didn't understand the creative process of why we're here in this world, you'd be like, look how much hardship this guy has went through. Kids being kidnapped, his kids are fighting each other. They sell one of them to slavery. His wife dies. His father-in-law, idol worshiper, tricked a guy, stole money from him. This the whole thing. I mean, you can look at Jacob's life and play, bro, come on, man. God doesn't love you. God loves the princess and the king that are not in the palace, and they're like, Romeo and Juliet. Romeo and Juliet. That's what God loves. Jacob. How could you say God loves Jacob? Look at all the stuff he's going through. And this is the difference between us and the non-Jew. The non-Jew sees a dreary world, and they only understand like reality through vacation and pleasure and attention and vanity. That's how they understand reality. That's how they understand it, and we've been affected by this type of thinking, right? But we have to change that way of thinking and say, like, no, Hashem put us through that. That was a process of light. It was painful. It was terrible. Woe to the people who contributed to it. Just like woe in the Egyptians. Woe to the Germans. Woe to the white Americans, right? But at the end of the day, God was building us to something. Why is God putting so many laws in America that make us have to ask questions? Why couldn't we just integrate? What's the problem? There's more white people than black people. People integrate, they intermix, one generation, everyone's white. Like, what's the issue? What is God telling us? All right. So he says, when I became chief rabbi, I had to undergo a medical examination. The doctor put me on a treadmill, walking at a very brisk pace. What are you testing? I'm asking him. How fast I can go or how long? He says, neither. He replied, I'm testing to see how long it takes when you get off the treadmill for your pulse to return back to normal. That is when I discovered that health is measured on the power of recovery. That is true in everything, but doubtingly so for the leaders and for Jewish people, a nation of leaders. That I believe is what the phrase "the kingdom of priests" means. So he's saying here, he's saying this idea that they said the Jewish people says in the book of Shemos, chapter 19, verse 6. He says like when it says that we're a nation of priests, right? Like a nation of Kohanim, right? This idea he's saying is really means a nation of leaders. He says leaders suffer crisis. He says that is a given of leadership. He says that when Harold McClanahan, Prime Minister of Britain between 1957 and 1963, was asked the most difficult question of his time in office, was he famously replied, "Events, dear boy, events." Bad things happen, and when they do, leaders must take the strain so that the others can sleep easily in their beds. He said, leadership. He said, leadership, especially in matters of spirit, is deeply stressful. He says four figures in the Tanakh: Moses, Elijah, and Jeremiah, and Jonah, actually prayed to die. They actually prayed to die rather than continue. He said this is not true in the distant past. Abraham Lincoln suffered. Abraham Lincoln suffered deep bouts of depression, and so did Churchill, and who called it his black dog. Why you gotta be black, man? Why you gotta be black? He said Gandhi and Martin Luther King both attempted suicide in adolescence and experienced depressive illness in adult life. I didn't know Martin Luther King had depression. It's crazy. He says And he says in his that he said the same was true of many great creative artists, among them Michelangelo, Beethoven, and Van Gogh. He says it is greatness that leads to the moment of despair, or moments of despair that lead to greatness. He said it is those who lead in inter. You see the word international? What is it?
Uh, Internalize, maybe.
What is it?
I think you're internalize. We,
Okay,
no,
yeah. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's all right. She said it is that those who lead internalize. It says internalize. Yeah, it is internalize the stress and the tension of their time. So he's kind of like he's saying this idea like leaders we take on the responsibility for the team. You know what I mean? Things aren't going right, things are falling apart, things are this, or they seemingly, right? We talked about it yesterday, right? Is being able to be in a place of leadership in home and family and business, community, that when everything is falling apart, you're still focused. You know it's just a season. You know, even if it's the Satan is in your face screaming at you that everything is over and you're finished and you're finished and you're finished, you could look at the Satan and be like, if it was really about to be finished, you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be here. Because when it's really over with and I'm on the dark path, it looks like paradise. I am, everything is good. All of my selfish desires are being met. I am completely at bliss. But I'm struggling right now. And I'm faced with challenge that is unbelievable. So that means that Hashem is here. I can recognize Hashem in the challenge. It's hard to recognize him in success. I don't know. Maybe it's not success. Maybe it's not success. Maybe it's not the right girl. So that's why you don't sleep with her. You don't sleep with her because you don't know you're the right girl. That's why you get married. Learn who the person is. Go through the process, right? So that's leadership, right? So he says, or is it that those who are used to stress in their life, in their emotional lives, find release in leading exceptional lives? So what he's trying to do is he's trying to understand what is it? What is it? What made these people achieve these, push themselves and were able to manifest these great things for humanity, right? He said, is it the greatness that leads to moments of despair, or moments of despair lead to greatness? That's what he's trying to understand about Martin Luther King, about all these leaders. He says, is it that those who lead internalize the stress and the tensions of their time? Or is it that those who are used to stress in their emotional lives find a release in leading exceptional lives? He said, there's no convincing answer to this in the literature thus far. But Jacob is more emotionally volatile individual than Abraham, who was often serene even in the face of great trial, or Isaac, who was particularly withdrawn. Jacob feared, Jacob loved, Jacob more of Jacob spent more of his time in exile than the other patriarchs. But Jacob endured and persisted. Of all of the figures in Genesis, he was the great survivor. The ability to survive and to recover is part of what it takes to be a leader. Wow. And he says, it is important to say, the ability to survive and the ability to recover is part of what it takes to be a leader. He said, it is the willingness to live a life of risk that makes an individual different from those others. So said Theodore Roosevelt in one of the greatest speeches ever made on the subject. This is what Theodore Roosevelt says. Wow, we're reading some presidents. So he says like this. He says, it is not the critics who count, not the man who points out how a strong man stumbles, or the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, who faces whose face is marred by dust and the sweat and blood, who strives vehemently, who errs, who comes short again and again, and because there's no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasm, is great devotion, who spent himself in a worthy cause, who at the best know in who at the best knows in the end the triumph of the high achievements, and who's at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory or defeat. So that's a very powerful thing he just said. This is life, man. It's interesting too. Just on this point, when I was younger, I was very, into business and doing business. And I met a lot of people, and I met people who've made, a lot of money in business. And, what's interesting about when you spend time with like entrepreneurs, people who made a lot of money in business, most of the people I met in LA were like, generally the people I'm talking about had something to do with finance in some type of way. And the thing is that all of them have these stories, I was doing this, I was doing that, I was doing this. And then this thing happened. And then, a great story of this, and actually not even so much with business, Tovia Singer. So I was talking to him one night, and it was I don't know, someone's house, something like this. First of all, he's my neighbor, by the way, right? Lives like right across the street. But anyway, the point is the thing, like, so I was talking to him single one night, and he was saying, I don't remember what we were talking about, but he was just saying like, he was just basically saying like he was basically doing like his kind of like Christian missionary stuff or whatever. He said, but what took him to the next level? He says when the movie The Passions of the Christ went out. So he said he went from like giving like maybe 20 lectures a year or something like that to like almost 200 or so. It was like some crazy number. And like obviously his income, everything, he's on the news, because everything's in this Passions of Christ thing. And he said, and I just put him in that whole mainstream space. And he said, you just never know, what it's going to be or what it's, or, and sometimes you grow so progressively at a steady pace that you don't even realize because it's not a blow up. It's not like, whoa, this thing happened. You look overnight, No, it's just like you've just been growing 2%, 3% every month, and you're just building, building, building for years. And you look up, and you have a mountain, right? But the point is just saying that anybody who's had success in life would just tell you that it's just like you have to go through the process. You have to learn what it is to do it. You got to learn how to walk. You got to learn how to talk. You got to learn, but in a difference, and the same thing with the spirituality, right? And that's like even now with our learning, it's so important for us to, we didn't do every single section, but it's so important for me and for you to have dialogue on each section, right? Because that's the next level, right? The first level was, hey, I'm saying this is the literature, here it is saying, here's a certain structure. That's okay, very nice. In some parts, I will have that position. But in general, now it's really about building that spiritual muscle of giving over, looking at what's being said and say, what is actually being said, right? What is exactly what's being said? Not so much what I'm thinking about it, right? Not how I feel about it, not how I think about it, but what is being said first, and then from there expounding on that idea and what it invokes out of me. And then the third thing is to be able to articulate it to another person, right? Okay, so he says Jacob endured the rivalry of Asaph, the resentment of Laban, the tension between his wives and children, an early death for his loved Rachel, and the loss for 22 years of his favorite son Joseph. He said to Pharaoh, "Few and evil have been the day of my life." And he says, yet on the way he encountered angels, and whether they wrestled with him or climbing in ladders in the heavens, they lit the night with an array of transcendence. So that's a very interesting thing. His encounter on on the Harbite with the ladders, what they're going up. But that was at night, and he had a whole nother experience with angels at night too when he wrestled. He said to try to fall to fear and yet to keep going. That is what it takes to be a leader. He says that is what Jacob the man. That's what Jacob the man who at the lowest abeds of his life had his greatest vision of heaven. So I want to go back to the beginning of this and and I want to just really just read this part over again and I want to just hear your thoughts on this now you went through this process, right? So he says, what is it that made Jacob and not Abraham or Isaac or Moses the true father of the Jewish people? Who are the congregation? We are the congregation of Israel. The congregation of Israel. So he's showing like they're holding by Israel. He said, yeah, Jacob didn't. He said, yeah, Jacob did not begin the Jewish journey. Abraham did. Jacob did not face trials like Isaac, like the Harbai, okay, the Yitzhak. And he did not lead people out of Egypt or to bring them to Torah. To be sure, all of this, children stayed within the faith, unlike Abraham or Yitzhak, but they simply pushed the question back one level. Why? What did he says? Why did he succeed where the others did fail? So, anyways, what are your thoughts on that question? It's really kind of like two questions in it, but the first question is like, why is it that Jacob is the progenitor of the Jewish people? And then the second question is what was the difference between Jacob in this context that we're learning from Rabbi Sachs, right? Because we're just learning one particular thing. But what is the difference between Jacob and Yitzhak and Abraham?
And I think, now that we go back and look at it, it's intriguing because, I mean, Avraham Avinu, went through immense trials, you know, immense trial. Like those 10 trials are insane to think about the things he went through. And then you go through, Isaac Avinu went through trials as well. So I don't know, I'm kind of interested, Rob, in kind of hearing, like, what do you think is the separation? Because is it to say that we can't say one was harder than the others in a sense? You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, is it? I mean, obviously, Yaakov is forged through, the experiences he went through, and he's saying that we get more of an insight into Yaakov. Like he feared, he loved. We don't know. It's never said about Avraham Avinu, Isaac Avinu. So it's more like Hashem. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Is it that Yaakov, it's not one is progressively greater or lesser. That's not. I don't think that's the way I should look at it, or anyone should look at it. It's more like, why was Yaakov chosen? Like, why did Hashem? Is it why could it have not been Yaakov Avinu? Yaakov Avinu was Abraham Avinu, and the other way around. It would have not worked the same in a way. That's what I'm kind of interested in. Like, I don't think I'm looking at it as a who's higher. It's just more of like, this is what Hashem chose, like the qualities that each person had. It was like Yaakov Avinu was made for that. So I don't. What is Rabbi Sachs trying to bring out? I guess is what I'm trying to say. No.
Very good. I mean, this is this is the things that we spend our time pondering. Like while you're at work and you're doing stuff, when you have free time, you think about like why was he holding this way? What did he see? Right? What was going on? Like what position is he actually speaking from? And this is the level of pashat. And a lot of people think pashat is like this like simple thing. Oh, pashat is just what the text says. No, pashat is a real thing. The pashat is really understanding the question, right? And really understanding his method of thinking and what he's trying to accomplish in this text. Yes, there's Kabbalah. Yes, Yaakov means Teferet and Hesed and Gevurah. I get all that. But the Peshat is once you're clear on that, then you can see the movement of what's happening, right? The movement, right? And the movement of what's happening over here is this idea of what he's saying is that the reason why Abraham was not the person, and the reason why Yitzhak wasn't the person, is because Jacob represented a people that were going to have a certain set of challenges, people that had to engage into the real world, people who were going to be tempted, people who were not going to pass all the tests, right? People who were going to be in times of darkness and would still have to be able to go for it. That Yaakov, out of Yaakov comes Yehuda, comes Yosef, comes Shimon, becomes Levi, comes Reuven. All these tribes represent the different personalities of Israelites. So Yaakov represents the blueprint of the experience of the people who are going to later be responsible to receive the Torah. That's his life. Everything his life you can see in every Jew's life. Even people who may not, who people say are not Jewish, but still went through the same things. They're struggling with God. They're struggling with their fellow man, going through oppression, going through tyranny, being a minority, being taken advantage of. You think Yaakov wanted to curse his wife and her die? It's the first one of the first things he talked in private with Yosef about. He's still pained over it. You know, you think he wanted his sons to be jealous and want to kill one of the one of his kids of the mother who already died, who only had one brother. You know, so it's just saying. So it's saying that this is this dysfunction that leads to holiness. These challenges that lead to holiness. This is the message that Hashem wanted us to have, being the people who bear and have responsibility for the Torah, for, as Rabbi Sachs is saying, a nation of leaders. And so the qualities of perseverance, the qualities of empathizing, right, through shared experiences is the basis of that. And then they even ask the question again, why did Yaakov give the blessing? We talked about this before, I'm pretty sure. Why did Yaakov get the blessing for leadership? I mean, why did Yaakov give the blessing to leadership to Yehuda, not Yosef? It's the same exact reason. Yosef was not, he's like Michael Jackson. You know what I'm saying? He's like Michael Jackson mixed with LeBron James, mixed with, Barack Obama, right? He has all the qualities. He's too good. Who can relate to Michael Jordan as a basketball player? You can inspire, you can be impressed, but you can't. It's the other guys, that are more relatable. Like a Charles Barkley is more relatable. You know what I mean? Like he was an excellent player, but he didn't have these super overwhelming athletic abilities. He was a grinder, but he's a relatable guy. He's a guy you can say, hey, I could be like Charles Barkley for sure, probably even better. So the point is the same. That's what Yehuda was. Yehuda was the Charles Barkley in comparison to the Michael Jordan, right? Michael Jordan being Yosef. And it's the Charles Barkley, it's the relatable character that Hashem wanted us to be, along with that relatable character that other people could see. Because people see it, y'all supposed to be people all the time. Y'all supposed to be Jews, but y'all doing this and that and this and that and this. Yeah, but if we were perfect, you would hate us more. If we were living at the level we're really supposed to be living at as a nation, you would hate us more. Or maybe not. Maybe the light that we give will be enough to fill the vessels of all the nations, and then from that space. Um, Anyways, big picture. Any thoughts, reflections?
I was thinking, I think I heard before this year how, all of our failures are really just the opportunity to gain material in a way. Like we can't create something from nothing. Only, Hashem can. So Hashem gives us these situations in our life that we quote unquote fail, but in reality you're just gaining the material to build a vessel that you need. So it's not that you're failing, you're just going through the process. And every single process is tailor made to give you the exact material for that destination that you're headed to.
Mm.
So, it's kind of think about that with Yaakov Avinu. Like all these situations he's going through, just creating a vessel. Every situation he went through created the opportunity for the continuity of the destiny of humanity through Judaism, through the tribes of Israel. So it's like you're gaining material in reality. You can't create something from absolutely nothing. We can't do that. Only Hashem can. So every situation you get in your life, it's like, oh, what did you gain from that? You gain for, to be persistent. What did you gain from that? You gain courage. What did you gain from that? You gain, resiliency. Like all these things, those were the sparks. Like B'nai Israel, dispersed through the four corners of the earth to uncover the sparks. When the vessel shattered. So we're making congruent a fragmented reality. And that's the purpose of, being a nation of priests, a nation of light bearers, a nation of, a light to the nations. That's the whole purpose of it. You only can get through these to have such an immense responsibility. You have to go through a test, and not just any test. I mean, they're on the highest level because we have the collective responsibility for all humanity. So it's deep when you look at the lives of old, and even of the matriarchs. They're extremely difficult. They are. I mean, yeah, Rivka, she was essentially being torn apart in a way, if you want to look at it that way, when she was pregnant. What a beginning, but that's the immense responsibility that we have. So I'm kind of looking at it from that angle. That everything that we go through is for a reason, and it's not just for good or bad. No, it's to strengthen you. It's for the absolute best. There is nothing but good. There is no bad in the world. That's the illusion. It all comes from Hashem, who's the epitome of good. So every situation in life that you're going through, every challenge that you're going through, it's just extra conditioning in a way.
Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. So yeah, so tonight I think I'm supposed to be going on with Rob Zion. I'm gonna do some weekly parsha. So last night I was like so focused on doing the thing with you, because we got to get these reps in, right? And I just got caught on this really long meeting, and my phone died, whatever, later at night. But anyways, we can figure it out, bro. Because I really like we need to get through the bro. We have to get through. I don't know if it's possible. I don't know. I mean, like I haven't did any calculations. Like if we do at least two a day up until Pesach, is that? I mean, I haven't done the math on it. You know what I'm saying? But I'm really trying to finish all of this best case scenario before Pesach, but at least between the first and the eighth day. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And just finish the whole Chumash on with Rav Sachs and his leadership series, because it's important, because these things are like these are huge concepts, bro. And the thing is like the next level that I'm gonna go into is pre-recorded like courses on different subject matters. Like me and you, we learn, right? But I'm saying like how we're learning Mesilat Yesharim, for example.
Mhm.
That could be that will be like a pre-recorded course that you know all was it 22 25 I mean, I don't know how many chapters it is. I know we're at chapter 15, but the same way we went through it, we'll have those classes, and the person could go through the entire the book, right? So this leadership series is a perfect thing for that, right? For this qualities of leadership and this, and then having like a test afterwards or different assignments. You know what I'm saying? And like really have these things like really think. So I could market courses outside. I mean, because there's only so many one-on-one classes you could do. You know what I mean? And maybe you got times you got bigger classes where you have to do that. But even that, it's like how much does a person understand? How much they know? You know what I mean? So the courses are very important like that. But all of the Kub Hayashar, all this form we're learning right now will be put into pre-recorded classes. It's going to be a lot of work. We're having to go through all this content. But the point is, the Kabbalah, this, Rav Ash, like all these things. Because I think Rav Zion is kind of like that too, no?
What do you mean in that way?
Does he have like pre-recorded
I
courses? Like,
don't, I don't, I don't think he has pre-recorded courses. I think everything he does is pretty much like live. Like it's either,
mm-mm.
on the podcast or it's in his classes. I don't think he has. He might. I don't think so. As far as I know, I think
Interesting.
everything is live in effect with him.
Okay, whatever. I don't know. I just know he has his courses. I don't know how they work. But the point is just saying that the way he markets what I think of courses, where you have like this year-long thing and you pay this
Mm,
amount, you know what I mean, like that type
mm,
of a thing. So that's the idea, is just to like turn all of these into pre-recorded courses, 6 month learning programs, like per safer. You know what I mean? And just like, bro, and the thing about it, we got endless content on this. You know what I'm saying? Like we're talking about courses right now, and turning even obviously some of those courses into books, like book studies. But bro, like just in terms of a university, like of this, like this is what we're talking about, bro. It's like it's so much content. We're talking about thousands upon thousands upon thousands of books that most of the world has never even heard about. Like you know what I mean? Like bro, Sefer Hayom, right? How to organize your day for holiness.
Mm.
That's a safer. Like, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter what religion you are. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, obviously, there's certain things with, certain things in the morning to fill in these certain things. But I'm saying in general, most people who believe in the technology, right? Even if they're not Jews per se, but they believe in the technology and they have their rituals and their processes, it's still like, bro, no one has access to Sefer Hayom. You know what I mean? And all these say, bro, Rabbi, like that's a big thing by us, right? The Jewish world, people but no one knows about Rabbi Ashlag. You know what I'm saying? Like no one knows Rabbi Nachman. No one knows Rabbi Nachman stories. Nobody knows Rabbi Nachman stories. Like we know Rabbi Nachman stories as Jews, and even us as Jews, it's like, bro, you know what I mean? Jews have no idea who Rabbi Nachman is in the United States. How many Jews have no clue, or people identify as Jewish, identify, have no clue Rabbi Nachman, and even if they do know Rabbi Nachman, they couldn't tell you one thing. They may have heard the name, maybe. All right, some guy in a some guy in a truck that's blasting music, and they got big payo, and they come and dance around. Oh, happy, happy. So maybe they seen something like that, but in general, they don't know Rabbi Nachman Torah, bro. They don't know that. They don't know that. They don't. They don't know. And even a guy who picks up even the average Jew or non-Jew, whoever who picks up the Torah and sees a Rashi commentary, they don't know how to learn Rashi. You don't know how to learn Rashi. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't know how to learn Rashi. So for me, I'm on that pre-recorded game, and and figuring out, man. But it's gonna be a big journey. But yeah, that's what we're going. We're going like online university and pre-recorded courses around Safari, right? Going through adventures, and God willing, that's what, yeah, bro. That's what that's what I'm working on, bro. Like, just everything. But the idea is to have an online university where we have tons of these courses on every subject, and we're just taking it through it, and like obviously have a little bit of graphic, a little music, a little sound effect, whatever, make it, and you could charge premium dollar, 2,500 a course, 3,000 a course. You know what I'm saying? And it's not, and these are like 6 month long programs, right? Where they're learning every day, you know what I mean? Or some other programs could be once a week, right? And the person comes in and they for a month, they may pay a blanket fee of $500, you know what I'm saying? But then they have these courses and then other sub things, right? So that's where I kind of like see everything going is in the short term, everything going in the short term, which is pre-recorded classes based around classics, Jewish fine and different mechanisms. So anybody who comes and learns will be able to basically, become a Torah scholar. You know what I mean? They'll be clear, whatever. And I'm not here judging who should come on this, blah, blah. I'm not, proselytizing. I am promoting the sages and I'm giving out the wisdom. And if that makes somebody want to say, hey, I want to keep the Torah and that's not on me. You know what I mean? Like I'm not proselytizing. I'm just saying, hey, this wisdom is dope and it can improve your life and improve my life. Period. And that's what it is. Anyways, any thoughts on that before we close out?
No, no, I think that's just the accessibility, giving people the opportunity to connect. It's something that they traditionally, I guess, in a sense, wouldn't have the opportunity to do. And that's the beautiful thing about this age that we're in. Information is flowing so freely. There's really no reason to be quote unquote ignorant in any sense. I mean, you want to know about anything, just pick up your phone. You can find anything, especially now with the AI component. So it's like we're in the age of immense light and knowledge. So it's like take advantage of it. So giving people the opportunity to learn the ancient wisdom of the sages, the true reason why the world is standing. I think as we progress more in time, there might be a more of an outpour of people wanting to connect to certain type of wisdom. Like how is the world created? Yeah, we got science, but science has its limitations. You know, and it's like once you start getting to the metaphysical world and the spiritual components of it, so you're gonna have the Torah to guide you, you know, to understand these things, the cosmos and the different lights that pour through and how they affect, you know, humanity. And I think we're elevating to that place where the world's gonna start seeking out, you know, the ancient wisdom. And in a way, the world always has, you know, in different mediums, but you know, giving people the opportunity to learn from the stages, I think it's gonna be amazing. You know, and whatever walk of life you're in, like you said, it's to improve your life, you know, through this ancient wisdom, through this, you know, this progressiveness of humanity. So I think it's a beautiful thing. I think it's gonna, you know, it's gonna help a lot of people. I mean, it's helped me tremendously, and not
Yeah.
just me. People who are connected to me, you know, they get this light. You know, every share that we have, I've noticed some form of fashion. You know, Hashem allows it to come out. Like whatever we learn today, I'm sure I'm gonna have a conversation and it's gonna flow into this. It's not like I'm seeking out people. Like, hey, let me tell you what I learned. It's like no, it just flows naturally. So you know, I think it's gonna be a tremendous thing.
And one other point, and I appreciate what you're saying, but one other point too. So in one of the classes I gave on, you can hear it, but I gave a class on Pikudei, Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, which is this week's parsha. But in the end of it, I had this whole discussion because it's with the people in India. And anyways, it was a big discussion. But one of the things that came out at the end of it was she was just asking me about me being chief rabbi and this, what does it mean? And I explained to her, basically like in essence, like, hey, there's all these, millions of people in Africa, who identify as Jews, right, as Israelites, and they don't have any support. They're just kind of like there, and they've been living that way for thousands of years. You know what I'm saying? So Chief Rabbi Pinchas and other, rabbis from that continent who were learning here in Israel went back and established the Chief Rabbinate of Africa. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of the Africans, in the United States, who came through the transatlantic slave trade came from many of the tribes in the west of Africa. Go and ask the tribes about it. You don't have to believe me. I'm not talking to them, I'm just saying in general. So anyway, so one of the things she was saying was like how badly they're in the same situation in India where there's all these people, B'nai Menashe, and all these other different groups in India that define themselves as Jews, and Israelites, and they've had customs and they have their own thing, but they feel like they don't really not able really fully able to connect with the state of Israel, and that same type of stuff because. You understand the spiritual aspect of the state of Israel is the rabbinical community, which has no influence over the government. The government's dealing with immigration and all these other issues, right? And it's a very small country. So when we start talking about Africans, it's not like, millions of Africans could just show up or millions of, yeah, because these countries have billions of people. So 5 million people is nothing by them, right? There's 50 million Igbos. Now, I'm not saying they identify as Jews, but just imagine if there was an opportunity to leave Nigeria to come to Israel, right? I'm not talking about the Israelites that are practicing Torah right now. I'm just talking about you're in Nigeria and you say, hey, Israel is saying that Nigerians who are Igbos or this or Israelites or identified as Jews can come and make immigration to Israel. Bro, do you know what that would look like? You know what I'm saying? Americans are not running over to Israel. I mean, like you have, the people, a lot of them fanatic, a lot of them are type of, or they come, but it's not like such a thing in America. I'm just used to it now. You know what I mean? But I'm saying in general, it's like, you know, America is just a different reality in many ways, right? And so it's just saying that I talked to Rabbi Pinchas about it, and I'm not saying now is not the right time, but I think it's time to start talking about and imagining, establishing a chief rabbinate in India, right? And to be able to create a situation where all those people there will also have access to Torah, also have access to proper conversions and proper learning, and be able to support them establishing communities too. So, anyways, we see we got a lot of time. We got a lot of time, a lot of work, a lot of decades ahead of us of this. I mean, bro, like at the end of the day, I was thinking about it. Sometimes, when I'm talking to people like on apps, like, I go these back and forth, and they'd be like, you're old. And I'm like, wait, what are you talking about, bro? Like, I'm a rabbi, bro. Like, I'm young. You know what I'm saying? Rabbis are like in their 50s, late 40s, 60s, you know what I'm saying? So it's just like I'm not there. You know what I'm saying? I got a long time to get there. You know what I mean? Like these ages, bro. I'm not playing basketball. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm a rabbi. The people I'm in the genre with are like 80. The great rabbis are like 80 years old. They're old guys. You know what I'm saying? So I'm a young guy, in this whole thing. So yeah, but Hashem decides. Hashem decides. But we got a lot of time ahead of us, and we got a lot of work to do, and we'll have a lot of children to have, right? And a lot of things, and a lot of bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs and all these types of things. So, anyways, Baruch atah Adonai leolam amen v'amen. Kotuv, hit me up if you we'll figure.